Welcome back, guys. Day two. I was working on this Suzuki SX4. The first video I was talking about taking the head off and not having to take the timing cover off. You should watch that video if you're interested in how I took this head off. I started there. This is part two. So as you can see, the head is off the car already. And you can see what I didn't have to take off. I'm doing this video because, I watched a couple of videos before I attempted this, and there was I don't know, there was guys that I wouldn't really trust working on my own car, so I figured I'd do it my way and then make a video compare and contrast. So I saw one video where a guy takes the intake manifold off with the head. I don't see the idea. I don't see what the point of that is. You could just kind of unbolt it and push it back, leave it there. There's another guy with the exhaust manifold off, which I didn't have to take off. It's unbolted in the back here. I unbolted the two bolts back there. I don't know if you can see the flange, but those two bolts are gone in that first flange. And then there's a bolt over here that holds it to the oil pan. So that way you can move it forward. And then just kind of slide it forward and up out of the way. It moves around. It gives you enough room to get the head off. And as you can see, I had to take the timing cover off, even though I really didn't want to, because it's like a whole other, I don't know, couple hours worth of work to get the timing cover off. I'll explain why I couldn't get it off. I mean, why I couldn't get the head off just without taking the timing chain and stuff off of there. Poor design, in my opinion, by Suzuki Engineering. We'll go over that in a minute. And you can see, I took the water pump off, but I took the water pump off just now. This is right here. I took it off after the head. The water pump was still on the car when the head came off. So you don't have to take the water pump off to get the head off. You don't have to take the power steering pump off. I didn't even loosen it. I didn't touch it. I didn't touch the alternator, and I did not even touch the air conditioning compressor down there. That is still bolted on. I did not touch it. So you can get the head off without having to take those off. So that's kind of good in a way. Saves a little bit of time. It might be a little bit tougher, but I don't know. I figured it'd just be worth it. I don't want to have to be wrestling with more bolts and stuff. I took obviously this neck filler off here for the coolant, and this piece comes off. You have to get this off too, off the back of the water pump. This goes in to the back of the water pump here. There's two bolts right here and here. Take those off, and then you can leave the hose on, and then you kind of just fish it up through here. That pipe runs across like this to the back, so it's easier if you take that pipe off first, and then you can get the water pump. You kind of sneak it on through here. You have to kind of move the exhaust over. It might be kind of tough to get it back in. I'll probably end up taking the exhaust off, just because it's going to make it a lot easier to kind of work things around in here with the water pump. I think I might get a new water pump. Just a quick update, if you guys didn't watch video one, this car was overheating. Wasn't quite sure why. Previous owner said it could be a head gasket. So I did a couple tests on it. Wasn't really 100% sure. It didn't have white smoke. It wasn't fouling or misfiring. It didn't have any of the symptoms of a blown head gasket, except for overheating. But only when it was in gear and driving. It could sit and idle for hours and hours and hours, and it would not overheat. It would just be normal temp. So I don't know. I got a new radiator for it because they had screwed that all up. The radiator cap was all screwed up. I think that was the original problem, was the radiator cap. You can see this radiator cap here is missing the valve, the little pressure release valve. So I think that might have broke off at some point or something, and then they overheated the car once, and it looks like they tried to use bars leak or something in here. You can see it in there. Then this got all broken down from being all hot. This hose actually broke off for the reservoir, and you can see the tube melted right off of the cap. It was in the reservoir tank. I found the tube hanging out in the reservoir tank, and without that, it's no good, because this needs to cycle through the cooling system when the temperature gets up and the thermostat opens up. It kind of presses in, and then when it cools down, it sucks the coolant back in. Okay, so let's look at the valve cover, or the head gasket. So this is the head gasket. It's a metal head gasket. I'm thinking this is an original gasket, but it's all metal. I think it's like two pieces. Yeah, it looks like two pieces. And I didn't really... Okay, so this is the upside. It was like this. and it doesn't look terrible. Here, let's look at it over here. So the top side, really, I didn't really see anything. Obviously there's no cracks, there's no rips because it's metal. So what you're looking for is probably just like some discoloration or something, some delamination of this black stuff. And I didn't see any like coolant or anything in the cylinders when I pulled the head off. The only thing that I could see on this gasket was right here. All this black was missing. Right here. And the rest of the head gasket looks pretty good. I don't see anything happening in between. Like I said, there was no white smoke, so I don't think there was any coolant going into the exhaust or into the cylinders, but I think it might have been going through here or something. Maybe there was a leak, and that's what was causing the coolant system to not be pressurized, and then it's going to boil over. You can see right here where the head gasket was kind of coming apart on that side, so I don't know. I'm hoping this is the issue, because unless I did a head gasket for nothing. But maybe somebody else can chime in and tell me what you think about this situation here, if this is a bad head gasket, blown head gasket. It kind of looks like it to me. I'm hoping that's the issue. So we got a new head gasket coming. I got all new, I got a new water pump coming. You know, I got the radiator already. It's in the garage. I got the caps. And valve cover gasket. I got all that stuff coming, so it should be back together next week. We'll find out. And here's the head. Here's where that gasket fell apart right here. So it doesn't look terrible. I don't know. I mean, it's not cracked or nothing, but that's not to say that the coolant could have been seeping through and getting. But see, the oil wasn't milky either. The oil was just regular, clean oil. It looks like they had just gotten an oil change. So the coolant wasn't going into the oil systems. It wasn't milky or nothing. There's something going on down here too. And it wasn't smoking white, so it wasn't going into the chamber. The spark plugs look fine. This looks a little bit different though here now that I'm looking at it. These valves look a little bit different than these. So there might have been a little bit going in there, actually. Who knows? The plugs didn't look bad. It must have been very small. They caught it early. They said they probably drove like 20-30 minutes with it. And then they stopped. They pulled over and they got a tow home, and then they never started. They never really messed with the car again. He kind of started trying to fix it, but they never really drove it again. Anyways, so I ended up buying the car because I just bought one of these SX4s the other day as a daily driver, and then this one popped up, and I figured I'd grab it for cheap and let me work on this thing and figure out what's going on with these cars, get acquainted with them. All right, so here's the poor design with the timing cover. So here's the timing cover bolt layout, right? This is how I usually put my bolts in when I take stuff apart, so I can kind of remember where they go. So there we go. So there's the bottom. This is the two that go to the oil pan, and then this is obviously the left side, the right side. Now I had all these perimeter bolts taken off, and I was prying on this timing cover, trying to get it off. Couldn't figure out what was going on. I actually broke one of the little tabs that's over here, trying to pry it off. And then I realized there is another bolt, a hidden bolt that they hide way back in there behind the engine mount. It's back there. You believe that? That is absolutely horrible engineering. That's so bad. Back there. And once I got that out, the thing fell right off. So, anyways, that was one of the issues that I had with the timing cover. The other issue with having to take off the timing cover is that you shouldn't have to take the timing cover off. There's plenty of cars out there where you can take the heads off without having to take the timing cover off. And this one was almost like that. You're not going to be able to tell because I think it's on the cams. Anyways, oh wait, where is it? I think it's the cams. Anyways, one of the cams, yeah, it's on the cams. Alright, so here we go, the cams. Where's that one? Okay, so these are both the front of the cams, right? So this front cam, the exhaust cam, that bolt sits real. You can get to this bolt easily to get that cam sprocket off. That was no problem. Now this one, you can't do it because this bolt hides so tight up against here. See how it's recessed? It sits so tight up in there that you can't get a wrench, you can't get nothing on it. So you cannot take this off without taking the timing cover off. If you could take this bolt off, if you could just unloosen it even, and then just take all the bearing caps off and be able to turn the cam so you can unscrew this and it'll come apart in two pieces. You'll be able to get the cam off, leave the cam gear in there. This would not have to come off. I know some of the mechanic guys are gonna understand what I'm saying. Some of you guys it's gonna sound like I'm talking Chinese. And this is how you keep timing see the exhaust cam, when I pull, before you pull it off, or before you do anything, when it's still tight, you take a zip tie, get the motor to top dead center first with the crank pulley. Make sure you're at top dead center. And then there are marks. I don't know, this little circle right here. This little circle lines up with a mark on the head. I'll show you in a second. This mark here, and then there's a mark on the other cam. I'll show you. But you put a nice zip tie right there. I'll hold it in place so you don't lose the teeth, or where it goes, it won't skip a tooth. So I had that ready to go because I did that one first, and then I wasn't able to get the. Obviously, I'm gonna have to redo it now. Don't get me wrong, because it's all screwed up. I'll reset the time or the chain properly now. But I'm just saying, if you don't have to take the cam gears off in the beginning, and they could stay up there, like just floating off the head, kinda. I'll show you in a second on another motor. You can just zip tie it like that. It won't skip a tooth. You'll know exactly that that chain has not moved. And if you can mark it on the other one, like I'll show you how I did. You probably won't see it because the chain's gonna be under there. See, I marked it here with a marker. You mark it right there. See this line? This is top dead center, and then top dead center will show up on the head as well. See right here? This would be top dead center. That hole lines up with this one on the exhaust side, and the intake side, this little slot right here for intake lines up with that line. So if you can mark the chain right there, like I did, with like a piece of, I'll show you. I marked it with a piece of tape and some paint. Maybe you'll be able to see it. Yeah, see, it's on this side. See, I marked it with a piece of tape and a piece of paint. So that mark, what the paint is on the chain, you can see that right there. That's where the top dead center, the mark is on the other cam gear. So that's how I'm gonna end up figuring out that I'm good there when I put it back together. Obviously you have to double check it and stuff, but anyways, sorry for the rant. That is a long way of me telling you that you do not have to take the intake manifold or the exhaust manifold or mess with the air conditioning compressor, or you don't have to take the water pump off, you don't have to take the power steering pump off. And if it wasn't for that one stupid bolt on that intake cam, if you can get that off, well, that you wouldn't even have to take the intake the timing cover off. But that's just poor design. All right, where else? I just wanted to show you what I'm talking about on this other motor that I'm working on here. How you can take the head off and leave the timing. See, you leave the timing gear on there just like that, top dead center, and it just stays there like that. See that? So I know that hasn't skipped a tooth. That's not going nowhere. I can put the head back on, make sure it's at top dead center with the cam. It'll go right on, no issues. And you should be able to do that with this motor, but that stupid poor design, you can't do it. So that's what sucks about that. And also the other issue is there's bolts going through the chain rails, the guides that bolt to the head. So you can't that needs to be changed too, because without doing that you got to take the timing cover off too. All right, enough of the rant. That's all I had to say. I'll come back when I start putting stuff back together, and leave me some comments and likes, and let me know what you think about this. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one, guys.